비질란테. 자경단을
Hello
뜻하는
and
말이죠.
welcome. Today we're diving into a recap and breakdown of the K-drama Vigilante. Right from the first episode, we're introduced to our main character, Ji-young, played by the legendary Nam Joo-hyuk, who's juggling two very different lives. By day, he's a seemingly gentle, soft-spoken student training to become a police officer. But by night, specifically on the weekends, he turns into a vigilante, tracking down brutal criminals who've managed to slip through the cracks of the justice system. On the surface, Ji-young seems like a regular, kind guy, but his double life forces us to constantly question what's truly right or wrong. With each episode, the story pulls you in deeper, layering on twists and complications, especially as the people around him start getting caught up in his increasingly dangerous mission. And the ending? Don't even get me started. There's a lot to unpack, so let's jump into it. The story opens in a cold, sterile courtroom. Sitting quietly is a young boy, Kim Ji-young, already hollowed out by grief. He watches numb as the judge hands down a mere 3.5-year sentence to the man who beat his mother to death. The same man had done it before. But once again, the court accepts his apology and writes off her death as unintentional. Ji-young doesn't blink. He just stares ahead, angry tears streaming down his young face. Then the man, Choi Sung-soo, a slightly overweight brute with a goonish face and patchy stubble, turns to him and smirks, locking eyes as he's dragged away. A final, taunting grin. That moment sears itself into Ji-young's memory. 12 years later, Choi Sung-soo hasn't changed. Still a thug, still violent. This time, he nearly beats a bus driver unconscious, for the simple offense of reporting him to the police. The other passengers sit frozen as he rips out the CCTV and storms off the bus. But someone else is watching. A hooded figure follows him into the night, shadowing him down winding streets and narrow alleys. Sung-soo senses something, turns, and true to form, lashes out, yelling threats into the darkness. The figure doesn't flinch. "Why is someone like you, a criminal like you, still walking free?" he asks. The fight is fast, violent, and final. Under the glow of a streetlight, the attacker's face is revealed. It's Ji-young, grown now, hardened. He leaves Choi Sung-soo bloodied and broken, then walks away without a flicker of remorse. At home, Ji-young stares blankly into space. He feels no regret, but he also knows no peace. Did he kill Choi Sung-soo? It sure looks like he did. As the sun rises the next day, we see Ji-young again. But this time, he's completely different. Now a top student at the police academy, he sits quietly through a lecture by Professor Lee Jun-yob, focused and composed. He gets along well with his classmates, especially Min Sun-wook and another close friend who are always trying to coax him into hitting the clubs on the weekends. Ji-young always turns them down, saying he's busy. Busy with what exactly? We get a clue when he stops to help an elderly woman struggling with her cart. She thanks him with a handful of sweets. Later, at home, Ji-young turns on the news. Another disturbing case is making headlines. The public is outraged. The courts have sided with a man who broke into someone's house and attacked the homeowner after being told to leave. Ji-young starts digging. The man, Mr. Kim, has a history of violence, so Ji-young pays him a visit. He shows up just in time to witness Mr. Kim and his friend harassing the same victims again, an older woman and her young son. They're laughing, urinating through the window, mocking them. Watching this unfold, something in Ji-young snaps. He beats them both, brutally. This becomes his routine. On weekends, Ji-young hunts down criminals who slip through the cracks of the justice system. A rapist doctor, domestic abusers, street thugs. He doesn't discriminate. As long as they deserve punishment, he'll be the one to deliver it. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the news program Repo 25, an ambitious reporter with striking red hair, Choi Mario, strides into her boss's office. She's got a story she believes could boost the show's ratings. She asks for permission to investigate a strange pattern she's noticed in recent violent crime reports. Several criminals who should be behind bars have been showing up beaten and bloodied. Mirio suspects someone out there is taking justice into their own hands. Her boss is skeptical at first, but when Mirio hints that she could easily pitch the story to someone more interested, he reluctantly gives her the green light. She's got her lead, but she knows it has to land. If it doesn't, her future at the show could be on the line. Determined, she gets to work. Back at the academy, Ji-young and his friends are deep in a discussion about whether the police should intervene when the courts fail. Professor Jun-yob had prompted the debate by asking why so many cold murder cases remain unsolved. Could legal reforms be the issue? As the debate unfolds, Ji-young surprises his friends by arguing that the law must be upheld, even when it seems flawed. The role of the police, he insists, is to apprehend criminals, not to punish them. His friends are caught off guard. They expected him to take the victim's side. But that's because they don't realize just how many secrets Ji-young is keeping from them. As the news reports on Ji-young's latest attack, he quietly hides his bruised hands, listening while his friends praise the mysterious vigilante, now hailed as a hero after the grateful victim speaks out. Ji-young stays silent as the conversation flows around him. The buzz intensifies, and Mirio grows bolder. She knows this story could be a major breakthrough for her career, so she comes up with a plan to lure the vigilante out. Realizing he's active on weekends, Mirio persuades her boss to revisit a disturbing old case on air to bait him, the Shi-yoon case. The case involved a young woman named Shi-yoon who had been brutally sexually assaulted in a park. Her attacker pleaded temporary insanity and got a mere slap on the wrist. Just 7 years. Meanwhile, Shi-yoon had to change her name to escape the backlash and stigma that followed. Mirio wants to expose the man responsible live on air, hoping the vigilante will take notice. The plan works, sort of. Public outrage explodes. Crowds begin camping outside the attacker's apartment. The man, a middle-aged ex-con named Jong Dok-hung, panics. One night, he cuts off his ankle monitor and disappears. Mirio tracks him to Incheonport as police scramble to respond. At the same time, Ji-young, helping his professor develop a criminal profiling app, quietly uses his access to dig into Dok-hung's file. The professor, impressed by Ji-young's initiative, has no idea what his student is really after. Back at the port, it's chaos. Mirio is growing more and more frustrated. The police are in her way, slowing everything down. But no one turns up, not Dok-hung, and definitely not the vigilante. As a precaution, they assign officers to protect Si-yoon, the original victim. But then the worst-case scenario unfolds. With resources stretched thin, one of the officers is pulled from her post. As he heads out, he stops to check a delivery man. Everything seems normal, but it's not. Dok-hung has been hiding inside the building the whole time. He ambushes the delivery guy, steals his helmet, and heads straight for Si-yoon's apartment. He stabs the one remaining officer and pushes past. Si-yoon, hearing the commotion, opens the door. She freezes when she sees him. The injured officer, bleeding out, barely conscious, still tries to hold Dok-hung back. He shouts for Si-yoon to run. She bolts down the stairs with Dok-hung close behind. At the same time, Mirio, having pieced things together, races towards Si-yoon's place. But Ji-young beats her there. He finds Dok-hung mid-attack. No hesitation. Ji-young explodes with fury, beating Dok-hung mercilessly. The killer pleads for his life, but Ji-young doesn't hear it, doesn't want to. Then, like a ghost, Ji-young disappears into the night, just barely avoiding Mirio's car as she arrives. She slams on the brakes, unaware of who she almost hit. The police swarm the scene. All that's left is Dok-hung's mangled corpse. Mirio slips inside and finds a message scrawled in blood across the wall. Heaven's net. I am sorry. Forgive. She's ecstatic. She was right. There is a vigilante out there. And now, if she can find him, her career will be made. Meanwhile, Ji-young walks alone through the night, lost in thought. The law might fail, but he won't. If no one else will do what's necessary, he will. His rules. The city is electric. Word of Jong Dok-hung's brutal death is spreading like wildfire. As the public spirals into a frenzy, the police are scrambling to regroup. Everything shifted the moment that message was found. Written in blood, scrawled across the wall like something from an ancient scripture. Now, they're not just chasing a killer. They're hunting someone cold, calculated, and deliberate. One detective mutters that the message is from the Tao Te Ching, a passage about heaven's net that catches all who sin. For those unfamiliar, the Tao Te Ching is an ancient Chinese text by Laozi, simple yet profound, focused on harmony, humility, and letting life flow without force. But there's nothing peaceful about what just happened. Another officer questions aloud, was the vigilante really wrong to kill Dok-hung? especially after what he did to one of their own. Let's not forget, Dak-hung stabbed a team member, twice. But Ji-young had already said it earlier. It's not their job to decide who deserves what. The vigilante committed murder. Now it's on them to catch him. They comb the scene. No DNA, no fingerprints, not even a smudge. Everything is clean, surgical. The only thing left behind? That cryptic message on the wall, now splashed across every news channel in the country. To make things worse, the public is eating it up. To them, this vigilante is doing what the system can't, or won't. So no one's volunteering information. No tips, no leads. And just to twist the knife, Repo25 drops the crime scene photos online, pouring gasoline on an already raging fire. Back at the police academy, Professor Junyob gets pulled into the investigation. A well-known criminal profiler, he's asked by the police to put together a profile of the vigilante. Before heading out, he reminds Ji-young and his friend Sunwook to stay focused on the profiling app they're developing, and not to take anything from his office. When Sunwook tries to offer his thoughts on the vigilante, the professor cuts him off immediately. But while the professor may be hesitant to make a move, he's not the only one with an opinion. Even at the crime scene, neighbors are picking sides. One elderly man flat out tells the detectives they should be thanking the vigilante instead of hunting him down. And Si-yoon, the woman the vigilante saved, she's refusing to say anything at all. Repo25 isn't exactly helping either. Mirio and her boss, Kwak Chang-hyun, are milking the story for all it's worth, sensationalizing every detail. Bad news is still news, and horrified viewers are still viewers. Riding the high of the growing buzz, Mirio pushes even harder. She wants the team to release not one, but 3 criminal profiles, hoping one will bait the vigilante. It's a bold move. Flood the news with targets, throw the police off, and track his next step. Mirio is certain Ji-young will take the bait, and this time, she plans to catch him. Meanwhile, back at the academy, Ji-young's friends are joking around, saying the vigilante seems super narcissistic, but in a good way, with solid leadership skills. Kind of like Ji-young himself, they tease. Ji-young, as usual, stays quiet. Instead, he's focused, watching Repo25's latest broadcast closely while the others chat. Of the 3 stories aired, it's the one about the murdered family that clearly strikes a nerve. Later that night, Ji-young sneaks into Professor Junyob's office to do some digging. The suspect? A man named So Do-yop. According to the report, back in 2018, So Do-yop broke into his former boss's house and murdered the boss's wife and 2 young children. Then, as if nothing had happened, he went out partying, posting selfies with drinks in hand. Despite the brutality of the crime, So Do-yop ended up with an unbelievably light sentence. Now out of prison, he's gone straight back to his old lifestyle, partying like before. With his target now locked in, Ji-young surprises his friends that evening by finally giving in to their constant pleading. This weekend, he's going clubbing. The trio heads to a club where So Do-yop is known to hang out. Once inside, Ji-young spots him in the crowd and notices that he's selling drugs to international students. Heaving over to the man, things take a sharp turn when, while his friends fumble through awkward attempts to pick up girls, Ji-young finds himself unexpectedly cornered by a girl at the nightclub. Playing along with her flirtation, Ji-young follows her deeper into the club, but when she suddenly kisses him hard, he accidentally swallows one of the pills Do-yop had been selling. Dazed and high, Ji-young staggers through the booming chaos of the club. The next morning, he wakes up groggy, nursing one of the worst hangovers of his life. He doesn't remember everything, but he remembers enough. Back at the academy, he throws himself into research, trying to piece it all together. Meanwhile, over at Repo25, Mirio and the other reporters are baffled. The vigilante didn't show up last weekend. What gives? But they don't have long to wait. The following weekend, Ji-young, now having spent the week studying Do-yop's every move, finally takes action. He tails him, tracks his routines, and even discovers where Do-yop is hiding his money. But instead of confronting him head-on, Ji-young leaves a note on Do-yop's car. It's more than just a warning. It includes a phone number. And not just any number. It connects directly to a narcotics officer in Busan. The message is loud and clear. Come clean now, or deal with the vigilante. Of course, Do-yeop panics. He calls his friend Sung-yeol to help trace the number and lay low while he tries to figure things out. But Ji-young is always one step ahead. Realizing that Do-yeop has no intention of turning himself in, Ji-young tails him to his supplier, watches him get paid, and listens as he asks one too many questions. The boss picks up on the tension. Something's off. The club gets raided. Do-yeop runs. He makes it home, heart pounding, only to find his stash of money gone. He completely loses it, thinking, what the hell is going on? Then the call comes. I was hoping the police would take care of it, make things easier for me. But I guess not. Ji-young sets the stolen money on fire. Do-yeop tries to fight back, but it's no use. Ji-young takes him down without breaking a sweat. He gives Do-yeop one last chance to come clean, but Do-yeop still refuses. It's only when Ji-young starts choking him that the reality finally sinks in. Do-yeop begs, grovels, pleads, but Ji-young's mercy has run out. By morning, Do-yeop is dead, and the police? They're back at square one. This time, when the cops show up, they keep the media at a distance. No cameras, no questions, but it doesn't make much of a difference. Word spreads fast, and the public's still behind the vigilante. On live TV, reporters argue. Some call him a hero, someone doing what the law can't or won't. Others are pushing back. Aren't people just cheering on a killer? Meanwhile, Ji-young sits back, watching it all unfold in silence, soaking it in. Over at Repo 25, the atmosphere couldn't be more different. Champagne's flowing, people are cheering. The show's ratings are soaring, fueled by the chaos. But Mirio isn't in the mood to celebrate. She shuts the party down without hesitation. How did they let him slip away again? She's furious, frustrated. She can't believe they missed him, again. One unexpected side effect of all the buzz? Crime rates actually start to dip. The police, feeling the heat, decide it's time to shake things up. They merge their unit with the regional task force. Not everyone's thrilled about it, especially now that regional unit leader Cho Haeon is in charge. Cho Haeon doesn't waste a second. He tracks down Gu Sung-yeol, one of Do-yeop's underlings, and puts the pressure on. A few hard slaps later, Sung-yeol cracks. He doesn't know much, but he does remember one thing. Someone young had been following Do-yeop. If they were hanging around the club, they've got to be in their 20s. Cho-han makes the call. His voice cold and resolute. He'll handle the vigilante and bury the story before the public even knows what happened. Meanwhile, Mirio stands alone at Do-yeop's crime scene. The crowd has dispersed, but her eyes are sharper than ever, scanning each shadow for what others overlooked. Across the city, Ji-young trains in silence, his fists pounding the heavy bag over and over. The net is closing in, but so is his grip.
이 문제는 경찰을 해가면서 계속 고민해봐야 되는 문제야. 왜 이렇게 밀려? 존나 비싼 거.
Episode 3 of Vigilante opens with this chilling atmosphere. Like the nighttime streets aren't just for walking anymore. They've basically turned into hunting grounds. And it's no longer just our main guy out there. A whole wave of copycats is starting to surface. People clearly inspired by the vigilante's ruthless approach to dealing with criminals. Some of them are just roughing up offenders, but others are going as far as killing those who've managed to slip through the cracks of the justice system. Naturally, the media latches onto it like wildfire. Talk shows are nonstop, full of heated arguments and people shouting over each other. Some defending this brand of justice, saying it's the only thing that works when the courts fail. Others warning that it's just more crime disguised as morality. It turns into this messy, tangled debate that really makes you question where the line is. What counts as justice, and who actually gets to decide? From the sidelines, Ji-young and his friends watch as the news explodes and the police struggle to manage the wave of public outrage. The station is in chaos, buzzing with pressure and noise, but Detective Cho Hae-on stays calm. He keeps his focus locked on the original mission, tracking down the real vigilante. The problem is, the trail has gone cold. Ji-young's back at school, laying low. Meanwhile, reporter Mirio is zeroing in on the vigilante as well. She's chasing down a case that has the public fuming. A truck driver who ran over a delivery man and got off with just over a year in prison. What she doesn't realize is that Ji-young is already ahead of her. He's seen the footage, read through every page of the file, and the smug, remorseless expression on the driver's face, that alone was enough to seal his fate. The vigilante is coming for him, but before the weekend hits, something unexpected happens. One night, Ji-young's friend Son-wook catches him poking around in Professor Jun-yeob's office. Ji-young shrugs it off with a quick lie. Couldn't sleep, just getting some work done. Days pass at the academy, routine on the surface, but Ji-young has already locked in his next move. That weekend, he tails the truck driver and ends up overhearing a conversation with the victim's grieving mother. The man's arrogance is jaw-dropping. It makes Ji-young's blood boil. But then the twist. The truck driver turns up dead, in a bathhouse of all places. Someone else got to him first. Now the game has changed. The method doesn't match Ji-young's style, and the police are left stunned. Cho Hae-on's team is back at square one. Someone else is out there. Someone else has picked up the mantle of the vigilante. Everyone is rattled by this sudden twist, but no one more than Mirio. She's furious, not just because someone beat Ji-young to the kill, but because she was scooped by another outlet. Her episode on the truck driver hadn't even aired yet when the story blew up, leaving her chasing headlines instead of making them. To make matters worse, the copycat vigilante starts sending messages to the media. Bold ones. He openly admits he's breaking the law, but throws the blame right back at the justice system, daring it to fix itself if it wants him to stop. Back at the academy, Ji-young and his friends watch the broadcast. Son-wook immediately dismisses the new guy as a poser, completely unaware that the real vigilante is sitting right beside him. Hwang Jun, on the other hand, is just impressed by the drama of it all. But Ji-young knows this is a problem. Things are spiraling. The copycat is drawing way too much attention, and that kind of spotlight is dangerous. So Ji-young starts looking into the psychology behind copycat crimes. What drives someone to imitate a killer's methods? What kind of person steps into someone else's shadow like that? Meanwhile, Captain Noon notices something off about the copycat's targets. These hits aren't random, there's a pattern. But Cho Hae-on isn't convinced. He believes the original vigilante is just escalating. While the police clash over theories, Mirio, ever the opportunist, pitches a bold idea to her boss, a live debate on her show. She wants to position the station as the vigilante's unofficial mouthpiece. During the broadcast, she doesn't hold back, blasting lawmakers and a broken legal system that, in her words, punishes victims twice. To her, the vigilante isn't the issue. The law is. And then tragedy strikes close to home. The kind Ajumma who's always looked after Ji-young is run down in the street. A bystander steps in and roughs up the reckless driver, but it's the Good Samaritan the police arrest, not the driver. Ji-young is livid. It's that same deep, burning anger rising again, and this time it's getting harder and harder to keep it under control. When the weekend finally rolls around, Ji-young heads home, but he can't shake a nagging feeling. Restless, he follows a hunch to a quiet, out-of-the-way part of town, a low-rise building where a key witness is being kept under protection. What he finds there stops him cold. The driver's brother, one of the same thugs from an earlier case, is pressing the frightened witness against the wall, his voice low and threatening, dripping with venom. Something inside Ji-young snaps. That night, without hesitation, he hunts the thug down. He corners him in a back alley and unleashes on him. Every blow, sharp, controlled, relentless. By the time the man slumps to the pavement, bloodied and groaning, Ji-young finally steps back and realizes this wasn't just some random thug. These guys aren't just small-time criminals. They're part of something bigger. Organized. Dangerous. And the one he just put in the hospital? He's the younger brother of a gang leader. Now, in a private hospital room, tucked behind guarded doors, that very gang boss sits beside his wounded sibling, quiet and unreadable. He doesn't speak. He just watches. And waits. Word of the assault spreads, and Mirio picks up on it. Something doesn't sit right. Too calculated, too clean. She smells Vigilante all over it. Acting quickly, she rigs hidden cameras in the hospital corridors, hoping to catch him in the act. She's not alone. The police are thinking the same thing. Surveillance units are deployed, plainclothes officers stationed inside, patrol cars circling the area. Everyone's waiting for the Vigilante to make his move, but they underestimate him. Again. Ji-young walks right in, unnoticed, dressed in a doctor's coat, surgical mask, and carrying a clipboard. He passes checkpoints without so much as a glance, moving with calm, professional ease. Inside the hospital room, the thug stirs, half-conscious. Ji-young steps in and stands over him. He doesn't yell, he doesn't threaten. He asks for one thing: repentance. For the witness, for the lives destroyed, for the people they've trampled without a second thought. Then, without another word, Ji-young places the thug's own phone on the bedside table, recording already running. Just outside the hospital room, Cho-hyun sees him, Ji-young. Their eyes lock, just for a moment, but it's enough. The air seems to freeze. Ji-young doesn't blink. He offers a small, almost imperceptible nod, calm and composed, then turns and walks away with unshakable poise, like he belongs there. But Cho-hyun isn't buying it. A split second later, the alarm blares, sharp and jarring, slicing through the tension like a blade. Shouts explode through the corridor. Chaos descends. Ji-young moves instantly. The white coat slips off his shoulders in one fluid motion, discarded like a second skin. He ducks into a side hallway, slipping past staff and patients with practiced, surgical precision. Every movement is honed. He's in his element now, pure adrenaline and instinct. Fluorescent lights blur overhead, polished floors flash beneath his feet, the sterile maze of the hospital closing in around him. And then, stillness. He pushes into a maintenance stairwell, lets the heavy door close behind him with a dull clang. Silence swallows the noise. By the time Cho Hae-hon's team reaches the lower exits, Ji-young has vanished. But he's not the only one watching his own steps. Unseen, hidden in the hum of electronics, Mirio's camera continues to blink red. It's been there the whole time, watching, recording, waiting. And the story isn't done yet. Just as Ji-young disappears into the night, another figure begins to move. On a higher floor, untouched by the chaos below, the second vigilante strikes. Clean. Brutal. The gang member is killed with quiet efficiency, no theatrics, no warning. Then, with a sudden crash, the body smashes through a hospital window and plummets to the pavement. The sound shatters the night. Mirio's camera catches every second. A blur of motion, the fall, the impact. Another death, another headline, and the game just changed. Again. Ji-young crouches in the shadows just outside the hospital, eyes locked on the broken body sprawled beneath the shattered window. Glass glints under the streetlights, a brutal reminder of how close he was, seconds away. And still too late. The reality hits hard. He wasn't the one to end it. Someone else got there first. Then he notices it, an ambulance pulling away from the rear of the hospital. No sirens, no rush, just gliding off into the night like any other emergency call. But something's off. Too quiet, too clean. Without hesitating, Ji-young moves. Inside the ambulance, the air is sterile and metallic, the faint sting of antiseptic clinging to every surface. And across from him, sitting with eerie calm, is the masked man, the copycat. The silence is heavy, humming with tension. Ji-young's breath is still ragged from the chase, his heart pounding in his ears. His voice comes out low, sharp, laced with disbelief. "Who are you?" The masked man turns his head slowly. There's a pause, just long enough to make Ji-young lean in, and then, beneath the mask, a grin spreads. "Nice to meet you, Ji-young-ga." Ji-young's breath catches, his muscles tense. But then, against his will, something flickers across his face. A twitch of the lips. Not quite approval, not quite amusement, just recognition. A reluctant smile, born out of something he can't quite name. The masked man throws his head back and laughs. Loud, wild, unrestrained, not mocking, just thrilled. The vigilante has just met his biggest fan. And now, the real game begins. Episode 4 opens in the smothering quiet after chaos. The hospital walls, blindingly white under fluorescent lights, feel almost too clean, like they're trying to erase what just happened. Cho Hae-on stands alone in the room where the Ajuma's killer took his last breath. The air is thick, not with grief, but with unease. The bed, the IV drip, the blood now scrubbed away. None of it feels right. Something is off. Cho Hyun's gaze sweeps the room with clinical precision, noting the smallest inconsistencies. His instincts, those quiet alarms honed by years on the force, won't stop blaring. This wasn't just a clean hit. It was deliberate, controlled. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. And Cho Hyun knows one thing for sure. The game has changed. It's no longer just about the original vigilante. Meanwhile, far above the sleeping city, Ji-young sits rigid in the passenger seat of a stolen ambulance. The hum of the engine buzzes faintly in his ears, but his mind is miles away. Next to him, the masked copycat practically bounces in his seat, giddy with adrenaline. "Isn't this amazing?" he says, eyes bright behind the mask. He glances at Ji-young, waiting for a reaction. "Aren't you worried about the CCTV?" Ji-young doesn't turn. His voice is flat, unreadable. "You took care of it?" "Already done," the impersonator grins. "Everything's set." Still, Ji-young says nothing, just stares ahead as the city lights blur past. Then, with a sudden jolt, the ambulance swerves off the main road, tires screaming as it races up the ramp of an abandoned rooftop garage. The vehicle screeches to a halt under the night sky, empty and echoing. The masked man throws open the door, stepping out with a theatrical spin. "This isn't a game," Ji-young says finally, voice low and sharp. But the impersonator just laughs, stepping closer. "That's where you're wrong. It's the most important game there is. We should team up." Ji-young doesn't hesitate. The moment the words leave the man's mouth, Ji-young strikes. Fists slam into flesh, each blow clean and punishing. The masked man barely gets his hands up before he's overwhelmed, stumbling back, blood streaking the inside of his mask. Ji-young grabs him by the collar and drags him to the edge of the rooftop. The impersonator dangles there, gasping, beaten and stunned, the wind tugging at his coat. Ji-young leans in, eyes like fire. "Stay out of my way." Then he lets go. Not over the edge, just enough for the man to fall hard onto the rooftop, crumpled and broken. Ji-young walks away without looking back. Back at the hospital, the fluorescent lights hum in the quiet as Cho Hyun sifts through files, his eyes sharp, movements precise. He's searching for a face, just a flicker, a shadow from that chaotic night. But every profile he flips through is a dead end. No match. No name. Just silence. The trail is vanishing beneath his feet, and that gnawing feeling in his gut only deepens. Across the city, Mirio sits hunched over her laptop, the glow of the screen painting her face in tired blues. Frame by frame, she scrubs through the hospital's security footage, eyes narrowed, refusing to blink. Then, there, barely a second. A figure slips out a side exit, hood drawn low. It's blurry, nearly lost in shadow, but she knows. The real vigilante. She leans back, heart thudding. She's close. Meanwhile, Ji-young is lying low. His body is sore, muscles aching from the rooftop brawl. Every breath reminds him of the fight. Then a buzz. His phone lights up beside him. Another message. It's from the impersonator. He stares at it for a beat, unreadable, then locks the screen. No reply. Left on read. Enter Cho Kang-ok, a chaebol heir with a politician's smile and a billionaire's arrogance. He walks into Mirio's office like he owns the place. Because in some ways, men like him always do. He doesn't knock, just strolls in, tailored suit crisp, smile sharp and knowing. He's the impersonator, but he hasn't just been mimicking Ji-young. He's been shielding him, quietly using the vast resources of DK Group to erase CCTV footage, reroute investigations, feed the police dead-end leads. It's all been calculated, controlled. Mirio doesn't care. She doesn't flinch, doesn't offer the flattery Kang-ok is so used to. Her eyes are locked on her screen, already moving to protect her footage. She's not here to dance with billionaires. She wants the real vigilante, Kang-ok. Unfazed, picks up a USB from her desk, the one with her exclusive footage, and pockets it casually. "Let's see if we're on the same side," he says with a cryptic smile as he walks out. Mirio just scoffs. A slow, amused laugh escapes her lips. "Oh, it's on now." Across the city, Jang Soo-nil is spiraling, grief turning quickly into rage. His brother's death has lit a fire under him, and he's rallying the gang, ready to strike back. But before he can even make a move, Cho Hyun tracks him down and cuts him off, hard. A fist to the gut, a hand to the throat, and a warning as cold as steel. Back off. The vigilante is his problem. And he's not about to let some street-level thug wreck the investigation or spark an all-out war. Still, chaos brews beneath the surface. Inside the station, frustration mounts. There's no footage, no fingerprints, no useful intel. Just silence and shadows. In the middle of it, Cho Hae-on starts voicing the theory he's been quietly turning over in his mind. Maybe the vigilante isn't just a step ahead. Maybe he's one of them, a cop. Someone with access, training, and the instinct to vanish. He takes that theory to Professor Jun Yub at the academy. And, just by chance, or maybe not, he bumps into Ji-young on campus. Their eyes meet for a brief moment. Recognition flickers in Cho Hae-on's gaze, but he masks it quickly, offering a polite nod and nothing more. Later, sitting in Jun Yub's office, Cho Hae-on leans in. Let's say, hypothetically, the vigilante isn't a villain. Let's say he's a good man. What then? The question hangs heavy in the room, daring an answer no one wants to speak aloud. Meanwhile, Mirio is pulling at a different thread entirely. She's deep into Kangok's financial web, digging through paperwork and fake subsidiaries. One name keeps surfacing: Seoul Future Resources. On paper, it's a bland import company with a hand in entertainment. Off paper, it's a front. Gambling, drugs, racketeering, the works. And at the top sits a ghost, Kim Sam-doo. Slippery, connected, dangerous. Mirio partners with fellow journalist Dae-seok to blow it open. He already has a lead, an actor, Yeon Jae-hak, long past his prime, but with secrets worth hearing. He claims to have ties to Sam-doo, dirty money, and hush-hush deals. They schedule a meeting. But when Mirio and Dae-seok arrive, Jae-hak is dead, hanging from the ceiling in his tiny apartment. The police are quick to label it a suicide. Open and shut. Mirio doesn't buy it. The scene's too clean, the timing too perfect. She stares at the chalk outlines and cold walls, jaw clenched. Someone wanted him silenced, and now she's done playing nice. As the weekend settles in, there's something different in the air, a subtle tension that prickles at the edges of Ji-young's senses. Shadows feel heavier, footsteps echo longer than they should. He knows it instantly, someone's watching him. So Ji-young takes control. One afternoon, in broad daylight, he walks right up to Detective Cho Hae-on on campus. His tone is casual, his smile easy, like the run-in is just coincidence. They talk, exchanging pleasantries, discussing the vigilante case, the media circus that's erupted around it. But underneath the surface, it's anything but small talk. It's a quiet chess match, each word chosen with care. Cho Hae-on probes gently but purposefully, steering the conversation toward blurred lines between justice and revenge, between enforcing the law and taking it into your own hands. Then he lowers his voice just slightly and delivers a warning. Change course, while you still can. Ji-young doesn't flinch. He holds Cho Hae-on's gaze, offers a polite chuckle, a vague response that dances just shy of admission. But as he walks away, the smile drops. He heard it loud and clear. Cho Hae-on's not guessing anymore. He knows. And worse, he's preparing. In a flashback, we slip into Cho Hae-on's world, his thoughts, his strategy. He's been turning the pieces over in his mind. The vigilante might not be some hardened ex-con or disillusioned detective. What if he's someone like Ji-young? Young, sharp, clean-cut. The kind of man the public would love. A symbol they could rally behind. A hero. And that's the real danger. If the truth comes out, if someone like Ji-young is revealed to be the vigilante, the public won't be outraged. They'll be inspired. Romanticized. They'll turn him into a myth. Robin Hood in a school uniform. A legend the justice system can't afford. So Cho Hae-on decides if he can't stop the vigilante, he'll control the narrative. He'll frame someone else. Someone with a record. A name the public won't care about. A face they'll accept as the culprit and quickly forget. The goal isn't justice anymore. It's containment. Later, sitting in Professor Jun Yub's office, Cho Hae-on speaks quietly, firmly. We don't protect the man, he says. We protect the idea. Even if that means sacrificing him.
정의다.
Episode 5 doesn't hesitate, it hurls us straight into the thick of it. Here's the deal. Ji-young, now fully aware of just how deeply Kang-ok's been orchestrating things from behind the curtain, finally makes the call. Big moment. Kang-ok, as expected, keeps his tone breezy. Slick, practiced, like it's nothing out of the ordinary. He casually brings up Ji-young's recent tangle with Detective Cho-hon. But Ji-young, he's not here to banter. He knows, he says. Simple. Unflinching. That's all. And just like that, the air shifts. You can feel the silence on the line. Kang-ok doesn't respond immediately. Not because he's speechless, but because he gets it. He knows Cho-hon isn't some minor inconvenience. The guy's sharp, relentless, the type who digs in and doesn't let go. He's a threat, and Kang-ok is well aware. So when Ji-young drops those words, it's not just a warning, it's a shift in the game. Suddenly, it's not just about Ji-young slipping up, it's about the entire vigilante machine teetering on the edge. And Ji-young? He's already looking past it. He's calm, focused, thinking 10 steps ahead. Then Kang-ok, trying to keep the mood light, lets out a half laugh and jokes, asks if Ji-young's coming after him next. Him and Cho-hon both. You can hear the strain behind it, though. It's not confidence, it's cover. Ji-young laughs too, but not because it's funny. He laughs because it's irrelevant. Kang-ok's worrying about getting hit, and Ji-young's already thinking like a tactician. He knows Kang-ok cloned his phone. Of course he does. And he's not mad, he actually admires it. It was smart. But now the board's flipped. It's Ji-young's move. Meanwhile, across the city, Mirio and her fellow reporter, Dae-suk, are knee-deep in the thick of it, full-on investigative mode. The warehouse they'd tracked down, buried behind a wall of rusted shipping containers, was choked with dust and half collapsed. The kind of place meant to disappear. The air inside was wrong, heavy, still, like it had been holding its breath for years. Inside, old computers, hard drives, weapons, every step deeper only confirming what they feared. This wasn't some forgotten site. It was a dumping ground for dirty secrets. Sewol Corp's fingerprints were smeared all over it, masked under layers of decay and silence. And the QQ coin trail? Unmistakable. Evidence scattered like breadcrumbs, receipts, wiped drives, cracked monitors. It was damning. Mirio and Dae-suk start snapping photos, adrenaline kicking in, hands unsteady but determined. This could be it. The story. The one. But then a shift. A sound. A presence. They're not alone. Out of the shadows, 3 figures. It was a setup. Before they could react, they were cornered. And in a single brutal instant, Dae-suk made his call. He shoved Mirio toward a side exit, an old service door barely hanging on its hinges, and turned to face what was coming. Go, he said, already moving to block their path. She ran. She had to. Legs burning, chest tight, she ran like hell. By the time she returned with the police and backup, the place was gone. Not physically, but wiped. No servers, no gear, no Dae-suk, no blood, no sign of a struggle, just silence. Like it had all been a mirage. Back at the police station, Cho-hon was feeling the walls closing in. Pressure wasn't just coming from the public demanding answers, it was coming from inside the force itself. Chief Superintendent Aom Jae-hyub's patience was wearing thin. He wanted results. Fast. Soon, Cho-hon said, jaw clenched, voice barely above a whisper. I just need more time. But time was the one luxury he didn't have. Meanwhile, across town at the police academy, Ji-young kept his head down, trying to stay under the radar. His classmates teased him, nudging with smirks and whispered jokes about his weekend date. He smiled, laughed it off, played it cool. Better they ribbed him for his love life than find out he was actually a wanted man. Still, Ji-young's mind wasn't on the jokes. His focus was sharp, locked onto the latest Rippo 25H segment that had just aired, a report that sent shockwaves through the public. The story connected actor Jae-hak's suspicious death to Kim Sam-doo, a man with plenty of reasons to silence a whistleblower. The timing was too perfect, too staged. And then Repo 25H dropped the bomb about the warehouse Mirio and Dae-suk uncovered. The ripple effects hit everyone. Ji-young felt it. Cho-hon felt it. Even the rank-and-file officers, who usually kept their heads down, were whispering nervously behind closed doors. Something was seriously off. Bigger questions started surfacing. How deep did the corruption run? Could Chief Aom Jae-hyub be involved? Was this rotten to the core, or just a few bad apples? Back at the newsroom, Mirio was feeling the squeeze firsthand. Her boss cornered her, voice sharp and clipped. He wanted her off the story. "You're playing with fire," he warned. "Back off before someone gets burned." But Mirio didn't flinch. "Bribes? Ethics?" she shot back, eyes blazing. "You're questioning me?" Outside, the darkness was thickening, heavy, like it was bracing itself for what was coming. In a rusted scrap metal on the city's edge, fire flickered low and cruel. A scarred man stood motionless as flames consumed what was left of Daesuk's body, the smoke rising like a silent warning. Across town, another man waited in the shadows outside the REAP 25H building. Engine off, door cracked, eyes fixed on the entrance. Mirio was the target. He wasn't planning to miss, but before he could move, Chohyun appeared out of nowhere. One sharp strike and the man hit the ground. Chohyun didn't pause to explain. Grabbing Mirio's arm, he pulled her to safety, breath ragged, gaze fierce. "Stop giving the vigilante more targets," he warned, voice low but intense. "You're going to get yourself killed." Mirio jerked her arm free, unshaken. Furious. "Why aren't you trying to catch him?" she shot back. "You know something's wrong. You feel it. You need me, and you know it." Under a little encouragement, the man Chohyun caught spilled everything. This wasn't some random thug. Mr. Bang was one of Samdu's top enforcers, a key cog in the criminal machine. He and his crew ran their violent operations with ruthless precision, leaving no room for error or mercy. When Chohyun found them, they were mid-cleanup, disposing of bodies in brutal ways, some even fed to pigs. Without hesitation, Chohyun plunged into the chaos. Fists flew, bones cracked, and the air was thick with violence. By the time backup arrived, the gang lay broken, bleeding, scattered across the ground, completely overwhelmed. As you'd expect, the police jumped at the chance to spin the story their way. "Vigilante gang busted," screamed the headlines plastered across newspapers and news networks. They claimed DNA evidence tied the factory to the real vigilantes' victims, and that some of the thugs were actually working for the very company supposedly backing the vigilante cause. But nobody, neither the public nor the media, was buying it. Why on earth would the vigilantes suddenly start hiding bodies? The official story didn't hold water, and the public saw right through it. Kangok, for one, was openly insulted by the whole charade. Mirio wasn't fooled either. And Ji-young? He was outright furious. So he made his move, quick and decisive. He took down one of Samdu's top enforcers, ripped a ledger out of their hands packed with damning proof of illegal trades, and left a bold message scrawled on the wall. "The real vigilante is still here." The police scrambled to control the fallout, desperate to steer the narrative, while the media ran wild with the scandal. "See," they seemed to say, "our vigilante wouldn't stoop to feeding bodies to pigs." Meanwhile, Samdu was in full panic mode. His top man was dead, the ledger gone, and the walls were closing in fast. Orders went out to lie low, keep the money flowing. He was cornered. And just when it seemed like the tension couldn't ratchet up any further, fate threw its wild card. Chohyun finally caught up to Ji-young. Spotting him under the dark hoodie, Chohyun chased Ji-young deeper into a narrow, shadowy alley. Ji-young still wore his mask, but this time he didn't try to run far. There was nowhere left to hide, and Chohyun was right behind him. They stopped, face to face. Ji-young wasted no time. He struck first with words, accusing Chohyun of being just another pawn, blindly serving Chief Superintendent Jae-hyub, part of the system that lets monsters thrive. The words landed hard, but Chohyun stood his ground. Desperation crept into his voice as he tried to reach the younger man. He wasn't here to fight. Not really. He wanted to pull Ji-young back from the edge, to show him that his skills and drive could be put to better use. "Fight from the inside," he urged. "Make real change. Don't throw yourself away." Ji-young wasn't buying it. His expression stayed fierce, voice rising with a righteous fury that had been simmering for years. "Have you ever felt injustice?" he shot back, eyes narrowing. "Have you ever watched the system protect the monsters? Watch them walk away while the rest of us suffer?" Chohyun's tone darkened. "The problem is, you think you're right, but you don't see what you're becoming." Then, without warning, the fight erupted. Blows came brutal and relentless. Ji-young fought with everything he had, but Chohyun's experience and anger overwhelmed him. Bloodied and pinned, Ji-young struggled for air as Chohyun's grip tightened around his throat. "You're a traitor," Chohyun hissed, You think you're saving the world, but you're tearing it apart. All the while, just out of sight, Kang-ok watched silently. Ji-young's back slammed against the concrete with a sickening thud. The air knocked from his lungs as Cho-hyun's hand clamped tightly around his throat. The grip was merciless, enough to end it then and there. In Cho-hyun's eyes burned fury. Yes, but beneath it flickered something rawer, desperation, maybe even guilt. He was trying to save Ji-young. Die now as the vigilante, Cho-hyun growled, breath ragged, or join me. Work with me. We can fix this from the inside. Blood smeared across his cheek, gasping for air. Ji-young didn't flinch. His voice came hoarse but defiant. I don't care if I die, he spat. But he had one more question, one that mattered more than the pain. His eyes locked on Cho-hyun's, steady and piercing. Did the chief send you to kill me? They struggled again, Ji-young twisting beneath Cho-hyun, desperate to break free. But Cho-hyun was trained, steady, stronger. After a beat, though, he released his grip, not because he was beaten, but because something in Ji-young's words struck too close. Maybe doubt. Maybe conscience. Maybe both. Ji-young wasted no time. He sat up, chest heaving. If you really believe in justice, he said, voice sharp as glass, then take down Jae-hyub yourself. Do it out in the open. Show people the truth. And if you can't, he pressed on, then maybe justice really does belong to the rich, the connected, the monsters. Slowly he rose, blood dripping from his lip, spine straightening with grim resolve. I'm not stopping, he declared. If it takes a devil to punish a devil, then I'll become one. Shaken and weighed down by the alley fight, Cho-hyun returned to the station. Waiting was a meeting with Chief Superintendent Jae-hyub. The chief wasted no time. Calm, cool, like routine. Like the decision wasn't even his. Drop the vigilante case, he ordered. It's out of your hands now. Just protocol. But Cho-hyun wasn't buying it. He studied the chief carefully. Is this about Seoul? Denial came fast from Jae-hyub, accompanied by a warning to not rock the boat. But the look in his eyes said it all. This wasn't about justice, it was about control. Then, just when Cho-hyun thought he'd hit rock bottom, the chief dropped another bomb. He was being transferred, effective immediately, and no longer team lead. A flicker crossed Cho-hyun's face. Maybe disbelief. Maybe betrayal's sting. But he didn't argue, didn't explode. He just nodded. If the chief thought Cho-hyun would go quietly, he didn't know him at all. Elsewhere, in the dim light of Cho-hyun's hideout, the man who tried to kill Mirio sits tied to a chair, blood drying on his face, trembling. The air is cold and heavy. Cho-hyun circles him, but it doesn't take much to break the thug. He spills everything fast and messy. At the center of it all is a man named Mr. Bang. According to the thug, he's the only one who truly understands the full scope of the operation. But Mr. Bang is a ghost, impossible to find. To get closer, Cho-hyun first needs to track down another enforcer known only as Squeezer. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the mood shifts. Under the quiet hum of fluorescent lights, Kang-ok sits beside Ji-young's bruised, unconscious body. He looks at him with something between admiration and cold calculation, as if Ji-young is a weapon he has personally sharpened. Leaning in, voice low and calm, Kang-ok whispers, "If it comes down to it, I'll kill Cho-hyun. I won't let him take you down." It's a promise, not a threat. Then, almost strangely, he pulls out his phone and snaps a few selfies, with Ji-young's battered form in the frame. At the same time, Repo 55 airs a groveling apology, throwing Mirio under the bus and announcing her resignation. But Mirio? She's far from done. Thanks to Kang-ok's seemingly infinite resources, she's given a brand new office. Sleek, modern, ready for battle. He tells her they're on the same team now. She's skeptical. What about Kang-ok's ties to Sam-do? Kang-ok insists he's just a man who believes in what the vigilante stands for. Soon after, Mirio goes live with her new platform, V News. Bold, unfiltered, and crystal clear, she's not suicidal. If she's ever found dead, it means someone silenced her. She even calls the vigilante a man fighting for justice. Naturally, this causes waves. Sam-do and the chief are watching, and they are not happy. Cho-hyun eventually tracks down Squeezer. He doesn't go easy. Dragging him into the same blood-stained bunker, Cho-hyun wastes no time. Leaning in, voice low and sharp. Only one of us walks out of here. The message lands hard. Squeezer pales and starts talking. Meanwhile, Ji-young is out of the hospital and already back in motion. The bruises haven't fully faded, but as he pores over the stolen ledger, his stomach twists at a recurring name linked directly to Medium Church. A deeper dive into the accounts reveals the ugly truth. The church's pastor has been laundering crypto for Samdu's gang, disguised as charitable donations. Ji-young doesn't wait for backup. He follows the trail to one of the pastor's trusted aides, corners him in a narrow alley behind the church, and forces a USB drive from his pocket, packed with transaction records and encrypted files. In the scuffle, Ji-young suddenly freezes, sensing eyes on him. He turns, just in time to catch a glimpse of someone half hidden in the shadows. Kang-ok. Until this moment, Ji-young has never actually seen Kang-ok's face. Cue a chase through alleyways and rooftops. Eventually, Kang-ok stops running. He's done hiding. Pulling off his mask, he reveals his face and tells Ji-young he wants in, for real this time. He doesn't want to punish the pastor yet. First, he wants to publicly disgrace him. Ji-young agrees, hands over the USB, and tells him to pass it to Mirio. Timing will be everything. Meanwhile, back at the academy, Professor Jun-yub gets an unexpected visitor, Nam Young-gil, the newly appointed team leader on the Vigilante case. Remember, Cho Hyun was basically fired without ceremony. Nam Young-gil is polite but probing, his questions sharp as he digs into Cho Hyun's recent moves, who he's talked to, where he's been. The professor stays vague but is clearly unsettled. Ji-young, walking in mid-conversation, slows just enough to eavesdrop. Later, in the quiet of his office, Professor Jun-yub casually tells Ji-young he won't be needing help on the profiling app anymore. The words are simple, but the look he gives carries weight, a silent question hanging in the air. What exactly are you involved in? Ji-young feels the anxiety rising. Just how many people are starting to catch on? Fast forward a few days, and the police academy buzzes with activity as Chief Superintendent Jae-hyub makes a grand entrance as the newly named head of the academy. Cameras flash, applause swells. He takes the podium with practiced ease, delivering a polished speech about honor, duty, and justice. But for many, especially those who've seen behind the curtain, the words ring hollow. Students exchange quiet glances, some confused, others clearly skeptical. The disconnect between the speech and the truth weighs heavy in the room. From the back of the hall, Ji-young watches silently, arms crossed, jaw clenched. He sees right through the performance. And judging by the looks around him, he's not alone in his distrust and doubt toward the chief superintendent. At the same time, Samdu's crew keeps laying low, holding their breath. The pastor, still unaware the USB is missing, carries on as if nothing's changed, until Ji-young shows up. He wasn't supposed to act yet, was meant to wait for the evidence to go public, to let the fallout do its damage. But maybe the pastor invoked God's name one too many times. Maybe Ji-young just had enough. The media explodes in outrage. Why would the vigilante murder a man of God? Headlines scream. But the chilling message scrawled in blood on the wall leaves no doubt. The vigilante did this, and he had a reason. Samdu, furious, vows to wipe out both the vigilante and Cho Hyun. Shortly after, Kang-ok delivers the stolen USB to Mirio. She's shaken but razor-focused. Looking him straight in the eye, she asks, "Do you know who the vigilante is?" Kang-ok only offers a small, knowing smile. Mirio prepares for her next live broadcast, ready to burn the whole system down if she has to. But Cho Hyun has been watching, and he knows exactly what kind of fire she's about to step into. He crashes the studio mid-show, yanks her off set, and corners her. Ji-young watches from a distance as Cho Hyun warns her, "You're painting a target on your back. You think they won't come for you next?" Mirio stands her ground, eyes blazing. If people don't know what's happening, nothing changes. They clash, two sides of the same war. The cop who refuses to arrest the vigilante, and the journalist who keeps feeding him his next mission. The parking lot is bathed in cold moonlight, the silence thick with tension. Cho Hyun staggers back, clutching a bleeding wound, every breath a ragged struggle. Mr. Bang and the assassin close in with lethal precision, movements sharp, merciless. Then from the shadows, a figure steps forward, the vigilante. Ji-young's presence is sudden, almost spectral. He assesses the scene with a cold calm, eyes flicking between the two assailants and Cho Hyun. For a moment, time seems to freeze. The question hangs heavy and unspoken. Will Ji-young save the man hunting him, or let him fall tonight? His fist clenches, muscles tensed. decision weighing down every heartbeat.
쭉. 잘 먹겠습니다.
상해를 입었는데요. 범행 직후 달아난 법원은 김 씨가 자고 있었이 아니었다고 기각한 김 씨는 일주일 만인 지난 3일 자택에서 경찰에 붙잡혔습니다. 이를 받겠습니다. 예, 상해의 팬들을 지켜주는 것이라며 상당 민심.
Episode 7 opens in the wake of chaos. Sirens still echo faintly in the distance, a reminder that the night hasn't truly ended. The city is restless, running on adrenaline and unanswered questions. Newsrooms hum with urgency, every screen flashing the same explosive headline: Vigilante saves Detective Cho Hae-on. It's all anyone can talk about. Speculation spreads like wildfire. Was this a rescue or something more calculated? Could the detective and the masked figure be working together? The city begins to spiral with theories. In two separate corners of the city, Mirio and Kang-ok watch the coverage in silence, each of them transfixed, trying to make sense of the headlines, the footage, the implications. Neither of them knows the full story, but both can sense it shifting beneath their feet. Meanwhile, in a sterile hospital room under tight security, Cho Hae-on lies unconscious. The lights of the monitors blink steadily beside him, in stark contrast to the chaos outside. Officials have already labeled the incident a targeted attack and promised to get answers quickly. But what the public doesn't know is that a far bigger storm is brewing behind the scenes. Elsewhere, Kang-ok makes a call to Ji-young. The conversation is tense. From his point of view, saving Cho Hae-on made no sense. The detective has been their most persistent threat, always a step too close. But Ji-young sees things differently. He's already thinking several moves ahead. In Cho Hae-on, he sees something useful. If they play this right, Ji-young believes the man who's been hunting them might just become his only real ally. Meanwhile, Mirio slips through the hospital's sliding doors. Her eyes flick rapidly from face to face, searching, hoping. But before she can get far, a pair of guards steps into her path. No visitors allowed. Her jaw tightens, and her fists clench at her sides. Still, she doesn't argue. Instead, she scrawls a brief message. It's meant for Chief Jae-hyub. Then, without another word, she turns and disappears into the city night. Back at the station, Chief Jae-hyub is already sitting across from his superior. The man doesn't need to say much. The offer is clear. There's room to rise if Chief Jae-hyub can keep this situation from spiraling. If he can keep a lid on Cho Hae-on, the vigilante, the press, all of it. But the chief feels it in his gut. The cracks are already forming. They're spidering through every corner of the city, widening every day. Across town, Sam-doo is pacing, muttering, fuming, until he finally brings the phone to his ear. His voice is sharp, urgent, demanding. Cho Hae-on should have been taken care of. On the other end, the surprise call doesn't sit well with Mr. Bang. The vigilante had made fools of them all. But Mr. Bang's struggles, as it would turn out, are far from over. That very night, the vigilante moves again. While Sam-doo's crew is busy transferring their latest payload, an illicit cache of QQ coins, Ji-young makes his move. In moments, the entire warehouse erupts in flame. Hard drives melt. But before the fire takes hold, Ji-young reroutes the funds. By the time the flames are spotted from the highway, the money's already been sent to charities that never asked questions and never needed to. Mirio stands in front of the wreckage, her voice steady but electric as she delivers the report live. The smoke still hangs in the air as she names them all. Sam-doo, Chief Jae-hyub. And then comes the twist. She plays the vigilante's latest message. It's a challenge and a warning, a rallying cry aimed straight at the men she's just exposed. Turn yourselves in. Reactions ripple instantly. Mr. Bang is livid. The fact that he is losing control is driving him crazy and eating at him, as Mirio's defiance only adds fuel to the fire. Sam-doo barges into Chief Jae-hyub's office. By the time that he storms back out, Sam-doo is on the warpath. He sends his men after Mirio. Torture her, if needed. Get the vigilante's name. At the same time, Detective Yoon-gil, the brand new investigator on the vigilante case, remember Cho Hae-on was transferred, has started to sniff around. Obviously, there is some kind of connection between Cho Hae-on, Mirio, and the vigilante, and he's just itching to take a look through Professor Yob's office. Cho Hae-on spent so much time there, and now the chief is the head of the academy. His clue has to be in the office, he thinks to himself. Meanwhile, something unforgivable is happening. Mr. Bang, still bitter, still unraveling, goes after the head of a local children's home. And not just any home. It's the same one the vigilante had quietly donated to, trying to do some good behind the scenes. It's deliberate, and it works. Ji-young sees the news, and it hits him hard. That place, those people, they were supposed to be safe. And now they're caught in the crossfire because of him. Because he got involved. At school, it starts to show. His usual calm is cracking. He's quieter, jumpier. The way his eyes drift, the way he checks over his shoulder, it doesn't go unnoticed. Especially by San-wook. He'd already seen Ji-young poking around where he shouldn't have been. But now he knows something's seriously wrong. Then, late one night, Ji-young picks up his phone. He doesn't waste words. Protect Mirio. Kang-ok doesn't ask questions. He can hear it in Ji-young's voice. Something's coming. Fast. He pulls up Mirio's CCTV feed, scanning camera by camera. Everything looks still. Too still. Then he spots it. A flicker in the shadows. A car, lights off. People moving slow and careful just outside the frame. His stomach drops. They're here. Without hesitating, Kang-ok bolts into action. His heart's racing. There's no more time to plan, no room for error. Mirio's in danger, and she doesn't even know it yet. Mirio's instincts kick in immediately. She arms her apartment with cameras, switches everything to go live, so that, as the attack begins, her viewers and the police watch in real time. But it's Kang-ok who arrives first, throwing himself into the fight and managing to drive the attackers away. Mirio is shaken, but unharmed. Watching Kang-ok, she is still skeptical that he could be the real vigilante. So much so that when the police question her, she calls him just some guy. Nearby, Ji-young pulls up in a taxi, keeping out of sight as he watches the police escort Mirio away from her office. Later, alone in her apartment, Mirio soaks in a warm bath, replaying Kang-ok's words about how the vigilante worries for her, the thought that makes her laugh. This is, until the lights flicker and the room is suddenly pitch black dark. Mr. Bang himself has found her. Meanwhile, back at the academy, Ji-young is summoned unexpectedly. Detective Yun-jil is demanding to know where he was the previous night, his tone sharp and probing. Despite knowing that he was the only student to leave the school the night before, Ji-young remains calm, insisting that the question is an invasion on his private life. For all the detective knows, Ji-young might have been visiting a girlfriend the night before. Professor Yob silently backs him, but Detective Yun-jil clearly isn't so convinced and pushes harder for a search warrant. San-wook and Hwang-jun exchange nervous glances, both sensing the rising pressure. San-wook, specifically, seems to be quietly piecing things together, while Professor Yob watches silently, seemingly aware of the full truth about Ji-young, but choosing to say nothing for now. After all, if San-wook could figure out the truth, then surely the clever former criminal profiler Professor Yob would also know that Ji-young is the vigilante at this point. Over in the hospital, Cho-hyun wakes up, bruised, bandaged, and barely able to move. Whatever knocked him down didn't finish the job, and he knows it. This isn't over, not even close. Meanwhile, back on campus, the students are given a rare afternoon off. Ji-young uses the break to meet with Kang-ok. During the meeting, Ji-young lets Kang-ok into his boldest move yet. Despite knowing that it would give the police one of their biggest clues to his identity, Ji-young explains to Kang-ok that he turned on the cryptocurrency phone inside Jae-yub's office on purpose, knowing it would trigger a trace. However, in the process, Ji-young found a second device, a burner phone linking Chief Jae-yub directly to Sam-do. It's a dangerous find, and he's not the only one who stumbles across it. Detective Young-gil also finds the same phone and confronts Chief Jae-yub, but the chief hesitates, and that moment of indecision seals the detective's fate. Just minutes later, his car is blindsided by a speeding truck in what's clearly no accident. The crash is brutal and final. News of his passing spreads fast. Ji-young hears it, and something inside him snaps again. Another good person has just been taken out. Ji-young goes to Cho-hyun. He tells the cop that this fight doesn't have to rest on his shoulders alone. But Cho-hyun, who is still recovering, begs Ji-young to back off. Going after the chief and Sam-do will only get him killed. Ji-young, however, has already crossed the point of no return. He stares him down and tells him flatly, if Cho Hyun truly believes in justice, then prove it now by stopping him. And if he can't, then he needs to step aside. Kang Ok's secretary steps into the room, tension all over their face, and quietly informs him that Mirio hasn't been seen in days. Kang Ok feels the weight of it settle instantly in his chest. Something's wrong. Deeply wrong. Cut to a waking nightmare. Mirio, bruised, bloodied, and bound to an old chair in a dim, dark room, stares through the haze of pain as Mr. Bang methodically pulls her fingernails out one by one. The air is thick, her breath shallow, but she grits her teeth and stays silent. She doesn't scream, doesn't cry, and refuses to give him anything. Not a name, not a lead, because the truth is she's not even sure who the vigilante really is. She suspects, maybe even believes, but she won't risk being wrong. Back in the city, Kang Ok wastes no time. He calls Ji Young. On the other side of the line, Ji Young answers with a calm, steady voice, as if he's been waiting for this moment all along. He tells Kang Ok that the time has finally come. Ji Young walks off campus without a second glance. That night, they strike. Kang Ok tracks Samdu's crew to a hidden warehouse where they're moving the last of their stolen cash, and together, he and Ji Young hit them fast and hard. Ji Young corners one of the goons, drags him aside, and gives his message. Mirio is to show up at the World Cup Stadium concert hall by 7 p.m. tomorrow, unharmed and alone. In return, they'll get the stolen crypto wallet back. Ji Young knows Samdu doesn't actually have Mirio, but he's counting on Samdu's ego, his pride, his hunger to prove control. That's what will draw Mr. Bang into the open. And once he shows, there's no going back. Sure enough, Mr. Bang takes the bait. Still nursing the sting of his last humiliating loss to the vigilante, he sees this as his shot at redemption. He wants control back, and this is how he plans to take it, by finishing what he started on his terms. Samdu, caught in the rising tension, starts to feel the walls closing in. He doesn't know who's coming for him first, Mr. Bang, the vigilante, or someone else. So he does what he knows. He arms up, stocks weapons, and orders his crew to stay alert around the clock. Paranoia sets in. Meanwhile, Ji Young and Kang Ok get together to plan the details of their strategy, heads bent close, words clipped and urgent. They think they're alone, but San-wook is watching from a distance. Later, he pulls Ji Young aside, his voice calm but steady, pleading with him to stop before it's too late. He doesn't say exactly what he knows, but it's clear that he knows enough. Meanwhile, Cho Hyun makes a quiet pilgrimage to Yonggil's memorial, standing alone as the wind tugs at his coat, the silence heavy with guilt. From there, he slips back to his dim hideout, the shadows swallowing him whole. The night of the concert arrives like a storm. The stadium thrums with energy as the music echoes off the concrete, lights slicing through the dark, and a sea of fans flooding in, many of them dressed as the vigilante in dark hoodies. It's the perfect smokescreen. Among the crowd, no one notices the shift when Samdus slip in early. They head straight to the security room, eyes flicking from monitor to monitor, tracking every angle of the venue, but with so many vigilantes, it's impossible to spot Ji Young. Then comes Mr. Bang, moving with quiet menace. He brings Mirio with him, bruised but still with fire in her eyes. Somewhere in the chaos, Ji Young and Kang Ok slip through unnoticed. Just 2 more masked fans lost in the crowd. Their hearts are pounding. Ji Young, still only an early 20-something kid who should be one of the concertgoers, instead edges toward the location where Mirio is being held, weaving through people. When he finally reaches her, it's fast, cutting her free and telling her to follow him. But nothing ever goes as planned. Mr. Bang senses something's off and follows, slipping into the flow of the crowd like a shark in a school of fish. At the same time, Kang Ok starts peeling Samdu's men away from their post, leading them into blind corners and echoing stairwells, one by one. As Ji Young and Mirio make their frantic escape through the darkened corridors and debris-strewn alleyways, Ji Young presses his phone into her trembling hands and tells her, quietly but urgently, to start recording. What follows is chaos as Mr. Bang and his men find them first, descending like wolves. The fight is brutal, with fists slamming into bone, blades catching the light and flashing through the dark air. Ji Young barely holds his ground, already bleeding when Kang Ok barrels in like a wrecking ball. Now it's a full-on street war. Then Mario's live stream hits the internet. It spreads in seconds. Phones buzz, screens light up, and somewhere across town, Cho Hae-on sees it. Without hesitation, he heads to the concert. Meanwhile, the battleground keeps growing. While filming, Mirio is nearly killed more than once, but Ji-young keeps her moving, shielding her and her camera. And then, just when it seems Ji-young won't last another second, someone else leaps into the fight. A new vigilante. Ji-young has no time to react until a blade sinks in. A flash of steel. A sudden gasp. The masked figure crumples. Ji-young screams as the mask slips away. It's Son-wook. He came on his own, without a word, because he believed in Ji-young. Ji-young drops beside him, shaking, trying to stop the bleeding with his bare hands, begging Mirio to get him to a hospital. Sirens rise in the distance. The police are finally coming, but Mr. Bang spots Sam-do slipping away and takes off after him. Ji-young follows as Cho Hae-on and Kang-ok fight back to back. Meanwhile, Chief Jae-hyub, just back from a polished lunch with his superior, who is also trying to get into politics, gets the call. Something's gone wrong. He races to the scene as the trail leads underground into a dim, echoing tunnel. There he finds them, Ji-young, Sam-do, and Mr. Bang. And without hesitation, Chief Jae-hyub acts. One clean shot. Sam-do drops, dead before he hits the ground. Then Chief Jae-hyub turns to the water controls and throws the lever. A deep mechanical groan fills the tunnel as water surges in. The chief wants to take them all out, erase this whole story altogether. Ji-young fights back, scrambling against the current, and Cho Hae-on joins him. They overpower Chief Jae-hyub, dragging him down in the rising water. Rage floods every inch of Ji-young as he nearly beats the man to death until Cho Hae-on pulls him back. He's still clinging to the idea that justice by law means something. Ji-young wants to argue, but then Mr. Bang comes out of nowhere and drives a blade into Ji-young's arm. The pain explodes. In the chaos, Chief Jae-hyub is able to grab his gun again. 2 shots crack through the tunnel. Ji-young goes down, then Cho Hae-on. For a moment, it feels like the end. But when the gun clicks empty, Cho Hae-on gets back up. Slowly, he walks to the chief. It's done, almost. Ji-young, barely conscious, bleeding out and numb, watches as Mr. Bang pulls himself up one last time, body trembling, face twisted in fury. One last fight. Ji-young ends it quick, brutal, final. And then silence. Well, we have reached the end of Vigilante. Overall, Vigilante has been a fast-paced, gripping story that certainly doesn't waste a second pulling you into its world of justice and revenge. At the center of it all is Nam Joo-hyuk, who completely owns the role of Ji-young. His performance is intense, layered, and honestly award-worthy. He doesn't just play the character, he becomes him, and it's hard to look away. In the words of director Choi Jong-yeol, Nam Joo-hyuk is the perfect actor to portray Ji-young, a character torn between two worlds. Ji-young has this duality inside him, and I think Joo-hyuk was perfectly cut out for this role, to be able to portray this duality, director Choi Jong-yeol says during a press conference for the series. Because he, Nam, looks like a very young, fresh person. He has that ambience to him, so he could be an exemplary police academy student, but he can also show that rage inside of him with those glaring eyes. That contrast really drives the show, and the tension between Ji-young's cool, disciplined exterior and the storm brewing underneath is where the drama finds its power. The action pacing is another big win. There's barely a dull moment. Each side story, even the smaller ones, feels like it belongs and feeds into the larger narrative without dragging things down. Ji-young's dynamic with Cho Hae-on adds depth too, especially as the story explores the gray areas of justice through their opposing beliefs. Yoo Ji-tae is also a standout as the hardened detective chasing Ji-young down. Fun fact, Yoo Ji-tae reportedly gained 20 kilograms to build the body of a formidable enforcer. The character needed to have a strong body, so I went for the shape of a bodybuilder, Yoo said. I had been interested in this piece since the webcomic. Several years later, when the chance to join the series as a significant role came, it felt like fate. That said, not everything hits as hard as it could. Mirio, as a character, feels frustrating and, in my personal opinion, unlikable until the very end. Although I think that is testament to actress Kim So-jin's amazing skills, pulling off such a toxic media character so perfectly. And Kang-ok, while entertaining, I feel like lacked a clear motivation. we never really get a solid reason why he sticks by Ji-young so loyally. As Enemy notes, not a single second of the K-drama is never really wasted on filler or unnecessary scenes. It jumps straight into the action. It is both a strength and a weakness. This is great for people who don't have the patience for the drawn-out nature of the traditional 16-episode format, but sacrifices a natural pace for the sake of brevity. Important moments that showcase emotional and personal growth are pushed aside in favor of bigger plot moments, which in the end detracts from the audience's ability to emotionally connect to characters that are not Ji-young himself. Still, the show does what good thrillers should. It makes you think. As the Korea Herald points out, though Vigilante is not based on a true story, viewers can certainly see elements of the real world reflected in the show, specifically how the justice system can sometimes fall short in the eyes of the public. With its somewhat open-ended finale, there's definite room for a second season. What do you think? Should they continue Ji-young's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.
법의 처벌이 합당했는가?
뭐 돈이 없어?
법이 제대로 받아내지 못한 죄값을 누군가 폭력으로 받아내고 있다.
의지야?
반성하고 있는가?
넌 또 뭐?
원망해. 내가 지옥을 보여줄게.
Somebody gotta want a terrorist.